And we are live. All right. Good evening, LinkedIn. Hey, it's Friday night. And this is the first Friday night I think I've done a show in probably a year. But, I reached out to Kylie here, Whiteley. How you doing, Kylie?
I'm doing well.
Awesome. Tonight we're gonna put Kylie to work. We're gonna have a live interview with her. We're gonna talk about what she's looking for. But I'm excited for her, and I hope everybody else is. Please, if you have questions, ask away. But you know the drill. I'll be right back after this video. That video, I don't care how many times I watch it, I just start. That thing really gets you pumped up.
It's powerful,
isn't it? It's like, whoo, where you got people chiming in here. Like, all right, we got Rob. How you doing, Rob? This is a great contact you want to connect with. We got the number one, Mr. James Kunkel. He's awesome. He is.
Hype man.
Yeah, HT Chutney. Hello from Raleigh. Do you know this person?
Not that I'm aware of. There's been a lot of connections going on this week, though.
Yeah, right. There's going to be a lot of them. Lisa Marie in Connecticut and Matt live on Friday. There's Mr. Matt. He's always on the show. Good to see you, Matt.
Friday.
All right. I'll tell you. So how you doing, Kylie? Good?
I'm good. It's Friday.
All right. Well, today, everybody, this is the best part I love about this show is trying to help people. And I always scroll through LinkedIn and I came across your post and you were looking for work. And I was like, oh, I got to ask her. I don't think it only took you about 30 seconds to say yes.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to hesitate. I am all for jumping at opportunities, especially right now. That's the reason I made that post was, I needed help. And so I have not said no to a single person. I have talked, I think I've interviewed 9 to 10 times a day, all week long. And most of which were not scheduled. My phone rings and I'm jumping on it. Yeah, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to jump at the opportunity. That's how we're going to change this dynamic, right?
That's right. Well, we're going to put you to work. First of all, let's start out. Where are you from? You are in Casselberry, Florida.
I'm in Casselberry. It's outskirts of Orlando area. I've always lived in Florida. I'm a homegrown. I grew up in DeLand, about 15 miles inland of Daytona Beach. So Central Florida through and through.
Must be hot as hell down there.
Woo. It's disgusting. I'm not, we brag about living in Florida, but I have not left my house. I think the real feel today was 111.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we got Maria. She's from Florida. Looks like here, Maria Ayers.
Yeah.
Julius. I am terrible with names, Julius. I'm sorry. Hello. We're going to get some names up here. Jordan Franklin from Arkansas. All the way from Arkansas. And you might know this area, do you?
Nope. Hi, Johnson.
Wow, man, you're an important person. Look at this thing going here.
Yeah.
All right, so what am I doing so wrong, Rob? All right, everybody. The reason like I said, Carla shows she's looking for talent acquisition. Let's just start off and let's just introduce yourself and tell us about you.
Yeah, so I have been in talent acquisition for about 5 years. Matt used to live in DeLand too. So I've been in talent acquisition for about 5 years, kind of fell into it. But then again, if you talk to anybody in TA work, they will say that they fell in. Nobody goes to school to be a recruiter. You either love it or you don't. You're good at it or you're not. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough in Sears to kind of fall into that and fell in love. Within, I'd say, a few weeks, I knew that my goal was to be a recruiter. I did not want to be a recruitment coordinator. I wanted to get in the thick of it. And I did. We were 4 months in, they opened a role, and my director at the time's name was Jeff, and was kind enough to open up the role to the contract employees
right.
to loophole away for me to be able to apply because I had not been there for 6 months yet. So theoretically, I wasn't supposed to be allowed.
Right.
And then he comes back to me and says, hey, by the way, I opened it to our Apple One candidates. And I was like, well, that's nice.
Oh,
And he was like, well, if I opened it to them, I have to open it to all direct hires. And I was like, oh, okay.
Okay.
So that was it. The rest was history. And I mean, I fell in love immediately. They threw me to the wolves, feet to the fire, and that was it. We did it.
I'll tell you what, you are lighting this side up over here. Now, this next one in person I'm going to put up here, check this out. This is Mr. Kenny Dunner. Savor the flavor, the awesomeness in you, sir, for sharing your delectable, scrumptiously, deliciously, edibly, tasty, good heartfelts. This gentleman is one of the best you ever want to meet. He's out in Texas, and he works with cancer, and what a great guy here. We haven't seen him, but I have never had so many people blowing up this thing right here. Austin, Texas. Well, here's Kenny again. He's going to be all night.
Oh, Ken, thank you.
Yep, right. Hey, from California, we got Roslow.
I used to recruit California too.
Did you? Whew.
Oh, I did with Sears. When I left, I was recruiting California and Hawaii, which is amazing because that was a 3 to 6 hour time difference.
So, tell me what areas Kylie, are you looking for talent acquisition? What area in Florida, and what are you open to? I should just say it like that with the names, titles.
Yeah. So I would like to stay. I guess even recruiting, I'm okay with. I don't want it to come across that because I've taken a senior role at any point that I'm not willing to take a step back and earn my way back in. I think at the end of it, it's really just about the culture for me, and about the camaraderie. I have learned that I can earn my way into the salary. I can earn my way into that title. What I can't earn my way into is a culture that doesn't exist. Right. Can't create a round table out of a rectangular one. And
I like how let's stop there for a second. I like how you said that. We were talking before the show, and I've never heard somebody use this analogy of explain what you're saying about a rectangle table and a round one. I love it.
So my father growing up was always of the mindset that the janitor deserved the same amount of respect as the CEO. Everybody's opinion is valid. Everybody's opinion is important. Everybody thinks differently. And if you close yourself off to that, just how disappointing and how unfulfilling it must be to never get to meet minds that are different from yours or different from your level of seniority, if you will.
Right.
So it's just, for me, I need a round table. I need everybody to feel like their spot is equal to the person next to or across from them, as opposed to, when you go to Thanksgiving and you sit down, it's that long rectangular table and who made that dinner because they're at the heads of the table.
Hey,
and I
love
respect the title and I respect the effort that the people put in to get there, but I don't respect you using that over top of someone else to treat them like you're better than them. And I think a round table just eliminates that.
I'm going to be using that for a long time. I think that's fantastic because little things like that, the way you say it, it makes total sense how you put the analogy together. Maria says great advice, but please, Matt, Rob, anybody on here, Kenny, if anybody, Roz, has questions, this is a live interview. So feel free.
I'm all in.
Yeah, we're all in here. So let's see. She has such great energy. She has considered running her own business recruiting. She'd be a great home run.
It has crossed my mind. I think there's a little bit of a fear in the same sense for me as kind of what we had discussed prior to the show that I don't want to be in a commission set right now. Right. I'm not in a position in my life at this point to take on something that could potentially fail. Right. And I think that that's something that I would like to do. I absolutely have an entrepreneurial mindset. It's what I was raised in. I respect it. I love the idea of getting in. It's not even the ownership part, but I've said for a while, my dream job would be jumping in and going from office to office that needs help redoing their TA teams. I love the implementation, the changes of processes and procedures, the really just getting involved in the nuts and bolts of it and figuring out what works and what doesn't and how to enhance the experience for everybody involved.
For everybody.
So I love the idea of it. I think right now it's still, my fear outweighs it a little bit more, unfortunately.
Yeah, and
Not
you
for
sound,
everybody, I
you
guess.
get excited. Kenny, Kenny will just Kenny's going to join all night here. He's going to say, oh, my
All
homemade
right.
sweet potato. He's this gentleman here. You got to connect with him. If I ever needed anything, I can call him in a heartbeat. And Matt and Rob and everybody here.
Love it.
What is, being a recruiter in today? You're on LinkedIn and you see a lot of the stuff we talked about before, like ghosting. You were saying all these different things. But what's your favorite part about being a recruiter and why? Take it not from the work standpoint, but helping people.
Yeah. No, well, my work stance is the helping people. People ask me all the time, like, why have you fallen in love with it? Why do you want to stick to it? I go to bed at the end of the day and I have a smile on my face.
Right.
Nice. I helped somebody. You get off the phone with a candidate, you extend that offer and they cry. And which is probably what's going to happen for me when I land this position. I'm going to be that candidate that I love to talk to.
Right.
Because I need this change. And I love being on the recruiting side of it where I'm giving that offer. I fought for them. We got them the dollar amount, the salary amount. We got them higher. And they are in tears and they're so grateful and so happy. And you know that you're never going to be forgotten from them. You're going to be a part of their story 10 years from now because you made a difference in their lives. And honestly, I can't imagine a better way to spend my time.
No, and you nailed it right there about I've had people cry.
Yeah.
I've offered them a job. They were like, wow. And that feeling of helping people. Listen, am I a perfect recruiter? I'm never going to say I'm not perfect because there's times I haven't gotten that phone call. And what I try to make my biggest change I've ever made, and it really works for me, is on Fridays to make sure to try to get with the people for Monday to tell you, to follow up, to say, because this way they don't have to go all weekend with waiting, like, oh my God, am I going to get the job? Or even a text on the weekend. Listen, I got on my phone, I got that text us. So I'm just like, for work, I like to answer people. I use
Google Voice.
The time. Yep.
I use Google Voice so that I can consistently talk to candidates. I am a weekend person. I will answer whenever. I just don't ever want them to feel strung, and you couldn't be more spot on. We talk about the Sunday scaries going back to work, right?
Right.
I feel like what's not talked about is from the candidate perspective is those Friday scaries. It's that moment where you're like, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not interviewing. I'm not getting any answers. I'm not getting any feedback for the next 2 days. And that is 48 hours for somebody who needs a change that they can't even think about it. They can't think about adjusting or talking or begging even their way into anything. There's nothing for them to do. So if we as recruiters, as talent acquisition specialists, whatever title you choose to go by, if we do not take the candidate, it goes back to it being a person-to-person experience. This has to be personal. You have to be connected to your people. And if you can't be, then it's just probably not the right career for you, and that's okay.
Right.
But I can't imagine leaving a candidate sitting on a Friday wondering what's going on. Even if all I'm calling is to say, hey, haven't heard anything back yet, you'll be the first one to know when I do.
Right there. You got it right there.
I just can't leave them wondering if the reason they didn't hear back is because somebody else got their offer.
Yep. Yeah, and then you have to make those hard calls. You do. I think I don't like them.
That's my least favorite part of the job.
But I do it because I feel it'll give that person relief.
It's closure.
Yeah.
It's closure, and they deserve it. I am of the mindset. I've had counterparts that think I am absolutely nuts and that I waste my time. I strongly disagree, respectfully disagree. But if somebody puts in an application, actually goes onto the website, submits an application, that's 15 to 30 minutes of their life, depending on the platform you're using.
Right.
They deserve, even if it's an automated email, something. They deserve some kind of recognition for the time spent.
Right.
And it's amazing how many people just think that that's not necessary. Well, I've never talked to them before. So I'm like, yeah, but what if this is the one company they applied to because this is the dream job? And
because if they looked it up and they research it, Maria says, I get the same question every day and I feel the same like her when I go to bed. You're always going to be part of their story.
in every way. I love it so much.
It is. My mom would always say, "Be okay to look in the mirror at the end of the day and be proud. You're so full of sunshine." Love it.
Thank you.
Jeez, you guys are awesome. HT Chutney here, and then we have so great to hear about your story. Oh, Tara's your sister?
Tara's my sister.
All right, how you doing, Tara? See, you can't beat that, right? You got your sister.
No.
One of my favorite questions when I talk to somebody about interview process, because my vision has always been, I love that you came on the show, and I do it when I've asked people, they'll say, well, no, I might not the way you look, or I don't do well on video, or, I kind of like a bias. They might not like me for my age, I would rather not do this. And I tell people, the reason I like doing this is because it shows the other side of you. You're not just the PDF that says, hey, look, here's Kylie, look, and you don't get to see the real person. And that's why I love doing
personality on a piece of paper.
Yeah, you can.
A piece of paper is skill. You can. The last company I was with, it was one of my favorite things they said is hire for personality, train for success.
I've heard that more and more. I've heard that.
You can train anybody. You can teach. You can teach, and you should teach.
I call that the transferable skills anymore. I wish people transferable skills are to me for when I look at your record. I mean, when I printed everything. I got my trees here, I call it. But I mean, you've been 8 years almost into recruiting. You've got event coordinators. You've been a director with sales, marketing, branding. So you have a lot of skills and transferable to where if you applied for something that you could do, it's hard for a person to say, well, she doesn't know this position, but you can learn, you can teach that person.
If they're open to that, yes.
Yep. We have Maria as a TA. My heart goes out to everyone who was affected by this 2023 redundancy. There's so much we can truly control as we are not the decision makers, but following up and treating each candidate as a person, not as a member, not as a number, you'll bring a smile. And that says it all right there.
Yeah, it's true. They're not numbers. They're people.
They're people.
When we get high volume, I think it's easy to forget that.
If I was to ask, you were in here and I had all your family and friends outside there, and I said, hey, tell me about Kylie. What do you think they would say?
Well, Tara.
Tara. Oh yeah, we got Tara
on there. Tara,
yeah, that's true.
Say?
What would they say to me about you? What would they say?
I have defined myself by my children for a really long time. So I think that my kindness and generosity is kind of it's a blessing and a curse.
Right.
It's something that I've learned as I've gotten older to handle a little bit better. But I think forgiveness is something that I am almost too good at. Kindness is something that I think trust is probably all of these things. I think I give a little too freely. And that can either be a really big blessing or a really big curse. But I think if you had to sum me up quickly, it would just be that I care. I would love for my sister, I don't know if she's still watching, but if she is, I'm hoping she'll type something in there because I would be curious to see what she has to say.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think it's compassion. It's a need. I have almost a need to help other people. And I have since I was young. And maybe that's just growing up in service and maybe it's just something that's ingrained in you. But yeah, this need to just be helpful. Sometimes I almost take on more than I can handle because I have to. Like I feel I'm bad at saying no.
Right.
I'm like the epitome of living a yes day over and over and over again.
Love it. Well, we got Amanda. You're an incredibly strong, smart, loving, and intelligent woman. I love it. Thank you, Amanda.
That is
great.
That is one of my best friends. She grew up next door to me, so she's answering your question.
Good. And then, all right, we got Eden. Good luck, Kylie. That's awesome. I know we said it before, but I wanted to make sure people get you. So you're in Casselberry, Florida. What areas are you looking for? I know you said you're open to anything, like hybrid.
I am. So I'm open to hybrid. I'm open to on-site. Hybrid, I'd be willing to extend a little bit further. So I would say geographically within an hour.
Right.
If it was hybrid. So just But every single day, I'd like to stay within a half hour if I'm going to be on site. And I'm open to any time zones. I've worked, 6-hour time differences. It doesn't bother me at all. So I'm willing to work remote for any time zones and any districts.
Right. I love it. When I was looking, when we were talking before the show, I was looking at your, base almost like, might as well say resume here. But when I saw the Sears, right, everybody, like you said, asked you, you had a couple of years at Sears Home Service. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, what year is this? There was a Sears. What did you, talk about what you did there? Because you really had a lot of experience. You did a lot from especially on all the social media platforms about brand recognition, all the social media. We talked about culture. How do you get it out there? And I think you've done it all here. So if you want to just touch on that.
Yeah, Sears was fun. Funny enough, they announced their bankruptcy in November. I started in February. So when I went into my interview, at the time, the manager was Daniel Husky, and I sat down in his office and I was like, am I going to have a job if I take this in like a month? Like, what are we doing? And it was described to me, which ended up being very true. Their brick and mortar, their retail had gone out, but not their home services, which is the division I ended up being with for about 3 years. So I started there as a recruitment coordinator and was in that for 4 months, started in as went into a recruiter role at that point. And the best was I end up in my Monday morning, July 1st, first day as a recruiter. And I'm on the team of my senior who has already become a friend of mine since my few months that I had been there. And he tells me, all right, Kylie, you're going to be on 6142. Welcome to the team. And I'm like, call on me, please. I don't know what 6142 means. What are we doing? Oh, it's the hardest district in the country. You have both the Dakotas and northern Minnesota. Also, you have a hiring event in 2 weeks. Have fun. Meeting adjourned.
That's the best way, just to be thrown into it. We talked about it. Just thrown into
it. I remember just like my heart hit my stomach. I was like, I'm what? I don't even know how to like log in and recruit yet, let alone how I'm supposed to put together an entire hiring event. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I like Matt. Matt said the same thing. Sears threw me off.
Yeah, it does a lot of people. I will say I got a lot of return calls because of that. Purely, I don't even think they care about interviewing me. They just want to understand how it's on my resume.
Because you've done it all there. I mean, phew.
But yeah, I ended up getting into that, and we killed that district. We did phenomenal with that hiring event. We rocked it out. Funny enough, my GM at the time for that area, also his name was Kylie. I'm convinced that helped a little. Yep. But I did that for a while, and this was all appliance technicians. So your laundry, your kitchen, your refrigeration, also small engine, HVAC, those kinds of guys, your blue collar guys.
You hit it all there.
Yep, it was a wide array, but I was, in a designated space, still running with a 40 to 50 rep count though. So it was pretty high volume and high attrition. And then when COVID hit, I was fortunate to make it through 2 rounds of layoffs. Once that second one came through, I had that aha moment, if you will, when I looked around at who was still logged on Teams and realized there weren't very many of us left. And if another round came through,
that was going to be you.
Right. What were the odds that I was going to be the one left? Because I figured that's what it was going to be. So I went to my director at the time, Veronica Downey, and said, where can I be of value? What can I do? I don't want to risk I can't afford to lose my job.
Right.
Tell me what to do. And so her and I sat down.
That is the best thing that I like what you did there. And I wish some people, if they're listening, they could do that, because the way you said that is, it really shows the employer that you want your job, and it's not just, but what can you do for them? What can you show value? And I love that.
It was, and it made such a wonderful relationship between her and I. It's something that I was low man. There were seniors and managers, and, there were tiers above me. Yep. And I ended up working hand in hand through COVID with my director. It was an amazing experience for me. I learned way more than I would have ever been privy to otherwise. And her and I decided that brand recognition was a huge key part that we just hadn't had time to do because of the recruiting load. And now he's right, always goes first. Yep. So we started talking about, we have the bandwidth now. Let's fix our brand. Let's
Yep.
fix all these people who have come in and were negatively like speaking, but they were coming after home services for exactly the same reason that you just asked. They didn't know the difference.
And
So
you changed. You increased her while you were there. You took
I
that
did.
lower reviews up, right?
I did. We took, which was my first dabble in any of it. So that was a huge learning curve, but we ended up taking it. I want to say it was a 2.4 when we started. And then I got us up to like a 3.1
Nice.
or 3.2,
Right.
something along those lines. And I had no idea just how difficult that was. Oh my goodness. It is.
It is.
You know, for
It
what
is.
one bad review does, you need 100 positive to counteract
Yep.
it. It was
Yep.
astronomical, the amount of effort that had to go in. So we got really creative because we also were not allotted a budget. They said that what we were doing was not valuable, it was not necessary, and if we wanted to take it on, that was at our discretion, and we could earn a budget, but we had to create value before they would give us anything.
So that really, I like how you said that again, because you're right. I understand what you're saying, not a budget, because how do you just tell people, hey, put some good reviews on. It's not just that,
Right.
but to move that up a little bit, that must have been challenging.
It was incredible. So we started actually rolling out bonus structures.
Yep.
So we started saying, hey, for every new hire, if you go in while you're in the hiring process, we'll add this to your starting. If you do it at your 90-day and essentially go in and leave a review of your first 90 days.
90 days.
We'll give you $50.
Awesome.
It wasn't anything astronomical, but it was 10 minutes of their time, 5 minutes even. And it bumped us like crazy because
did you see the return though? Did you see the return of the ROI on it all? You had your good reviews. Did it really help you bring people in then?
It did. It absolutely did. And from what I understand, that what continued to go up. They continued that initiative. We built it into something that they actually were putting money behind. So the way that I ended up back into like full-time recruiting, because while I was doing this, I was still recruiting part-time. So I maintained my title and just added a secondary one in the interim. At the time that they started bringing all of these furloughed people back, that's when I went to Veronica and said, hey, I should probably get off of marketing because I don't belong in marketing,
right,
and get back into recruiting. And she said, yeah, of course. And they took what we had done and actually handed it over with a budget to the marketing team in corporate.
Nice.
So we had created something that they had now saw value in. They saw something that was worth investing and getting a team together to continue doing
COVID, right? That was pre-COVID, right?
That was through COVID, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
So we took the opportunity of all that downtime to build up the brand. And then it showed when I got back into full-time recruiting, we were bringing people back in. It was easier. There was less ghosting. People were more responsive. That initiative that we had taken had paid off. And I was able to see the fruits of my labor, if you will. And that was a really cool experience too.
I know you said ghosting. You take that personally too. I don't think that term, go back 5, 6, 7 years. I never heard of that. I just never, until like COVID and everybody was just, I don't know, ghosting was like, all right, what is ghosting? And in recruiting, that is
not for business.
Yeah, it's not really good for that. I like what you said when I asked you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? That question, but I like what you said. You would ask a company, where do you see me in 5 years?
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer that you should interview the company too. And so I know what their expectations of me are. I've read the job description. I know what I have to do. What I don't know is, where does my position go? What does my progression look like? Thank you, Stephen. Where does this take me? Do you see me in the same place? And that's okay if you do. Right. Transparency, I think, is vital, because I don't want to be in the same place in 5 years. I want to know that I have that progression and that I have that chain. I don't want to jump around. I want to know that 15 years from now, I can be with the same company because we have the same goals in mind for both the company and for me. So yeah, and at the end of an interview, it's standard. Well, do you have any questions for me? Is there anything I can answer for you? And
I love it.
oftentimes the candidate will say no. And I think I understand the fear of asking those questions because it can be a little intimidating, but I also just think it's such a valuable part of the interview that often
I like it. I like it when they ask questions.
I live by it. I think if a
Yeah.
candidate has taken the time prior to an interview to figure out questions that they have about the company, or if I happen to have answered those during, to have enough understanding of their own personal value and their own personal goals to be able to ask pointed questions that are relevant to them as a person, not necessarily just to the role. I think it's really valuable.
No, we got Steven, like I know you said, yay, I'm so excited for you. It's so cool to witness this dream unfold and manifest into reality. Matt says, I always coach to ask hiring managers for an example of an internal growth. That's a good way. I never asked it that way. Asked hiring manager for an example of an internal growth. Okay. Some questions when people have asked me, it's okay that if I didn't know, I'd be like, wow, that's a good question. But I'm going to get back with you on that because I don't want to tell somebody. I want to make sure I have it accurate.
But there's nothing wrong with saying I don't know. I always find that very interesting. Coming into new roles, right? As a recruiter, you come in and sometimes it's an industry that you've never been in before. And so you're recruiting for jobs that you've never done, you've never worked with, you've never worked for, you've never had your hands in. And so I've watched counterparts struggle over the fear of conversation because they're afraid that the hiring manager is going to look at them as ill-equipped or inept if they don't already know what to do. My first 2 weeks, I passively recruit on the obvious, but I spend that first 2 weeks hammering everything out with my hiring managers. I know how they want to interview. I know what their knockout questions are. I know if they want to see resumes before I talk to them, if they want me to do the interview or if they do, what priorities they have, which areas they're willing to train in or not. And I have no problem calling that hiring manager and saying, hey, look, this is new to me. I've never worked in this. Fill me in. Take me through what a day in the job is going to be like for this person who's coming in. Make me understand as if I am the incoming candidate. And then I'm so much better equipped to jump in and do what I need to on my side. So I'm not sending them candidates that just aren't viable for them.
Not viable. It makes sense. We have a couple of things here. I think the result of this redundancy is the overhiring that happened post-COVID. Along with it, the biggest factor was companies used permanent employees to help them with backed up workload and contingent. That's very true. Kenny, I've been at current job for 35 years now, and I love what I did. 35 years, Kenny. That's rare. That's
rare, and it's a wonderful, beautiful thing. It's what I'm looking for.
Isn't it? See, that's what it is there. Matt always asks 3 to 5 questions and mentions something going into the company, and I love that. Rob had a good one here, and it's true. Do you the right to ask the company why you was ghosted?
You do. You can ask, but they're not going to answer. If they're already ghosting you, they're not going to come back and tell you. I mean, I've even been in positions where I've been passed over for roles and gone all the way through to finals and then asked for feedback. Because if there's something I did wrong in the interview, if there was something I said wrong, if there's an experience or a certification or a training that I can do that's going to change that, I would love to know. And I
don't think a lot of people do that as much anymore. I don't really have people saying that
to you. I've asked and I get nothing back. That even after weeks of interviewing, you ask for feedback and then you get ghosted. So yeah, unfortunately, I think you can ask that question. I just don't know that it's going to yield the response you're looking for.
On that, what is your, I'm from listening to talk tonight. What are you looking for in a company, and what do you feel your strongest strengths are, and why that somebody would want to hire you? Basically saying, like, so what are your strengths? What do you feel?
I think I'm very outside of the box. I'm never afraid to get my hands dirty. I believe in leading by doing. I don't want to sit behind the desk, and it kind of goes back to the round table conversation. I don't want to sit behind my desk and take my title and say, I've earned the right to not deal. And maybe you have, but it's just never the way that I function. I love the meeting of the minds and the camaraderie and the team environment. And I think I bring fresh perspective because I'm willing to think outside of the box and hear the opinions of everyone around me. And there's nothing that I love more than getting into something that feels askew or awry and figuring out how to fix it. I absolutely thrive in it. I'm a feet to the fire kind of person. I work very well under pressure, under stress. I think that in this kind of environment that can collapse you very quickly because it happens fast, right? As you know, you can go from thinking you have everything handled to, talent acquisition can just all of a sudden you jump in and it is just, it's nuts. And I don't mind that. I work very well that way. So I think, I'm a team player. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to get involved. So there's not really anything you're going to throw at me that I'm going to push back or have an attitude about or choose not to get involved in. It's just not the way that I function.
I think teamwork is great when it comes to a team because it's like I know on my team, I can have doesn't matter what kind of questions or ideas. I like that idea to where it's okay not to know, like we talked about, ask questions. What can I do? Or this idea, okay, if that didn't work, that's fine. But a team environment, when you get some people that just aren't into that, you can tell. You can tell right away.
And again, there is nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Not everybody has to be a team person. Just know where you fit. Right. And know where your skill sets are and where those are best utilized. For that. But then again, that's where people like you and I come into play, right? Is to help people understand that.
And that's what I think I love about recruiting myself. It's just, all the stuff that we've talked about tonight. That's what the job is. Everything that we've talked about tonight, from even honesty, from integrity, it just comes over. Maria says, I think you are a true asset to an employer that has a chance to work with you. I love it.
Thank you, Maria.
So what is, we got like one or two more questions here. What does work-life balance, work culture mean to you?
Culture for me is it can't be built. So I learned this last place that I was in. It was where I really found out that round table mentality exists outside of just my own head.
Love it.
I would come up with an idea weeks into me being there. I'd come up with this idea. I'd go to my HRBP and I'd say, hey, I think that this could really help. Like if we trained our guys on how to interview and change this dynamic, and this is where I see our disconnect happening. And I was fresh eyes and they could have looked at that and been like, you're brand new. You don't know what you're talking about. But instead they took it as a fresh perspective. That's amazing. And then they put me on the phone with the president and said, tell him what you told me. And it was a round table. I was the new girl. Nobody knew who I was. But they put me on with Joe and they said, tell him what you told me. And it became, that is the culture I'm looking for. Is I talk to my I would send my hiring managers a resume and say, I think this guy is a winner. Do you want me to reach out? I'd hear back an hour later with an offer. They went ahead and just called him. They trusted me.
And they trusted you. See,
so they were like, you know what? We didn't want to risk it. We went ahead and just called. You're right. Phenomenal. Go ahead. Here's the offer. It was this mentality of just pure team building all the time. And it was so rewarding to be truly invested in something and to see that they were invested back.
And I love the part when we're talking about, you can tell you got a big smile with your kids that you want to hang out with them now. When she said that, I was like,
work-life balance. Yes.
You want to hang out, work-life balance. I want to hang out with my kids now. I love the way you said that. That was so funny.
And they're older now. So it really is like we can go do things together. Beckett will be 8 in October and Aiden will be 15 in December.
Right.
So this is like, I'm getting ready to take golf lessons. No interest in golf, but my son has decided that he's completely passionate about it. And now apparently I have to learn. I just want to learn baseball. I already know how to do that, but apparently we're doing golf.
Love it. Love it. Robs, what is the best way to get the attention of the person interviewing you?
I think authenticity for me is it's as a recruiter, very quickly. You've done this so many times, if there's a disingenuousness, if somebody is faking it, acting during an interview. I think just being your truest form of yourself, because it's going to come out. You're going to find out, eventually if you're not that person, that you're not a cultural fit, that you don't work well in that environment, but they hired you because you were something different. So I think getting the attention, I have so much respect for the people that will flat out tell me
Right.
what maybe I don't want to hear, but I need to know about them.
Right. And that's perfect. I mean, I get the question how he says there, how to stand out. I think that's what he's saying too. Like you said, how do you stand out in that interview? You know, how do you get that person? Because I think when people interview you, they can tell if you're not into the interview, if your body language, everything is different. I think you feed off of that. You could be like in your mind, well, this person's not really even listening to me.
Well, and I've had those interviews, unfortunately, and I hate to say it, but for me, if at the halfway through the interview, I'm sitting there looking at my watch, and I'm like, okay,
Yep.
this was fine. Like, okay, we're done now. Like, because you know that it's just not, it's not real, it's not authentic. They're not getting involved. They're not engaged. That they're almost just going through the motions. They want a paycheck, not a career. They're looking for something to just end it right there. And and then I feel that. And so my personality dims and I have a harder time getting involved and pulling things out. So I think staying engaged for me as a recruiter, if you want to get my attention, you want to keep me engaged in you, reciprocate.
Love it. HG, this has been such a great episode. Thank you for all your insights, Kylie. Awesome. I want to thank you. I can't believe it's almost close to 45 minutes already.
Is it really?
And yeah, that was long. I didn't even get to. I always do this. I spend a long time writing all these questions. I'm like, you only have so much time, but I want to thank you so much, and I'm going to give you time here to go over one more time, everybody. Kylie's looking for work she's in Casselberry, Florida. Talent acquisition. You've heard her tonight talking about. So please, if you know anybody, reach out. I'm sure if they PM you, you will reach back out to them
very quickly.
Just tell us one more time what areas, what you're looking for, and why you love recruiting, and then we're going to call it.
So recruitment, talent acquisition specialist. I think that I would be a very solid fit while it's not directly on my resume yet, but for TA management, it seems to be one that I get looked over for because it's not on my resume yet. But I think that is a mistake that's being made by the people checking.
There you go.
So I think that a TA manager would be a very, very smart move for both myself and whoever I jumped in with. Anywhere in the Casselberry area within about a half hour, if it's going to be full-time on site, anything within an hour if we're going to roll hybrid. And I'm willing any time zone to work remote. And I want to be in a talent acquisition because I'm really, really good at it.
Love it. That is perfect.
I'm good at it.
Yeah, I had one more thing for Daryl. He's in Texas. How you doing, Daryl? Better to have the interview before the process. I had good interviews before HR first forced scripts.
Yep.
Matt, thanks, Matt. Great show. David always prep. Feel free to reach out. I have connects in Orlando market. Matt does recruiting also. Yep, he'll be on the show next week. He's on the show all the time with me. He comes on. But I want to thank you so much, really. I mean, to come on here and just talk, but you can see the importance of just to get to know the person.
Yeah.
I think people see another side of just that piece of paper. All right, who are you? You
can't know somebody from a PDF.
Right. And I think that you've showed that tonight, and I'm really impressed, and I wish you all the luck. I'm going to help you afterwards and show you some good tips to try to reach out. But thank you so much. And we're going to watch this video, but we'll be right back at the end. I want to talk to you. Okay.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, Kylie. Bye-bye.